I'm just kidding.
Yo, I can talk all day.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Just what you guys were all tuning in for, another Masters pod. Let's get it going. Let's tease off a couple out. No, just kidding. We're talking UFC. Very, very excited for today's guest. Seltzer influencer extraordinaire,
Cheers.
a UFC, and really just one of the finest follows you can come across on the old Twitter.com machine. Just entertaining tweets, which is not easy to do. Most anybody in the gambling Twitter space ultimately will annoy you at some point. Not this guy. So without further ado, welcome to the deep dive, Mr. at Top Cocky.
Top Kaigi. What's up? What's up, fellas? Great to be here. I've said this before, but on another podcast, but I feel like a mom who watches Oprah all the time, and she goes to Oprah and she gets pulled up and gets interviewed and shit. So this is a big day for me.
Oh, this has been months in the works, because it's not like, hey, you want to talk NBA this week, and the guest is like, yeah, I'd love to talk NBA, and like, all right, hey, we'll check you on Monday. Let's get together, do it. This is tricky because basically I can't remember how long ago we first DM'd you, and we're like, yeah, we're all pumped, yeah, let's do this, and then like, yeah, we need to pick a good card though, like, because this one sucks balls, and like next week is like Bellator,
and we're ripping them off, yeah.
I'm like, if we're gonna do it, let's pick a good pay-per-view. There was a couple, but it kind of landed on this one. I don't know. I'm just gonna say it's the best of the year. I'm gonna say it. I don't know because I don't know the schedule past this, so there might be a better one this summer. I'm calling this one the best of the year, and it is.
No, I think that's fair.
It is going to be a good one. A couple of belts, couple of lady fights. The undercard's starting to come together.
Yeah, would you guys consider you guys casual MMA fans?
Yes.
Not after this show. Like, we're gonna graduate.
This is yeah. I'm trying. This is right. This is grad school. I'm taking this.
I'm pretty anti-casual. So
okay.
My goal is to get you guys to be
convert
guys that do shoeies on Saturdays, and just the boys. MMA.
What is your UFC experience, Drew? Like, let's say in a normal month, how much UFC do you watch?
Only the big stuff, really.
Okay.
And the main event, the main event pay-per-views, surely. And to be completely honest, like I am a professional weekend drinker, so I'm usually pretty gone by the time we get to the the main event of the night card. So for me, it's literally just like this is just serotonin rush. Like, oh, this is so fun. I
probably watch more. I probably watch more than people think, because I don't really bet a lot of it, and I don't like talk about it, I guess. But I watch it in the most fucked up way. It's like watching the pregame show and then going to bed before the NFL comes on. Because I watch the undercards on like ESPN.
Sure.
Because the effort is so low. Like, obviously, I'm not going to pay for pay-per-view. If I want to watch it, I'll go through the whole finding the illegal stream and figuring it out. Hopefully, Dana's not watching. But like, I watch the undercard because I can just flip it on
every pay-per-view.
Yeah, I could just flip that on, and then like
sometimes twice, just for good.
If it's like
price is going up too.
Yeah, unless it's a fight I really, really, really want to see. It's like a really big once a year kind of fight. I usually I'll watch. Like I was telling Aaron here. It's me and the boy watch it. The 7-year-old, he calls it the karate fights. He loves it. We watch those until he goes to bed, and then also the main event shit's at like 1,000,000 o'clock. So then I don't have to stay up late. I can do other stuff. So yeah, I'm like an undercard hardo. Like I liked undercards before school.
Never heard of that, but I think once you get to the main card, that's when all the action happens. But I mean, UFC, you can get like 15 bets on 15 different events in one night, so it's not like football. So I don't know. I think I personally think is the dopest. It's like some pirate ships stuff. It's like, okay, back in the day when the Coliseum was there, if I was alive during that time, I probably would have been rolling my horse over to the Coliseum, front row, tailgating it, and been on all those fights. So I love fights. Fights is my shit. I think everyone that I've ever watched fights with eventually ends up liking it because
there's no humans versus animals in the octagon this weekend, right?
No, not this weekend.
Okay.
Not this weekend.
Well,
we'll get there though.
They should bring that. I don't know if that's allowed. We'd have to do that in like international waters. And you know what? Like pandemic year, I feel bad because I did get into it a lot more when it was out of necessity. Like that's when you find out if you were if you have a gambling problem or not. Like if you needed it.
Because you weren't sure.
Yeah, it was like no. In your mind, it's like no. I just I'm a sports investor. I take this pretty seriously. And
they were the first ones back. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the pandemic hit. It's like,
I'm
like UFC. Well, and I treated it that way. I listened to a few podcasts from people I trust. I DM'd a few people I know that work on UFC heavily. I did some research, and I did okay betting. Like I ended up. That's how I bought that Traeger. I hit a stupid long shot parlay. I didn't even stay up for the last fight. I told my wife, I'm like, this guy wins, I'm gonna go buy a new grill tomorrow, but I am so tired I can't stay up. And I went to bed and woke up, and then you have the panic check when you wake up to check the fight. And sure enough, so like I enjoyed it a lot that summer, and I just kind of fell out of it. So I think I need to get back into it now.
Dude, I have to get together with you guys and we got to sweat a UFC card out one time. Going live is like it's my favorite sporting event to go to for sure.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Which ones have you been to? Is the best, huh?
Oh yeah, you get there, the vibes are high. People are it's like being at the Coliseum, but back in the day. This is our version. A little more air conditioned. People get up for it. Everyone's got bets going. It's the best.
Okay, so talk me through a general pay-per-view weekend for you in terms of process. You start handicapping it immediately when you know what the card's going to be. Do you feel like you have to get your bets in relatively early before the numbers get shaped? Or is this the kind of sport where you can literally wait till the day of the event, and there's such a weird kind of market forces that sometimes you can capture value when you wake up or just right before the event starts? I guess, how does the week go for you, a week of a pay-per-view like this week?
Yeah, there is like day of shit that you can take advantage of. So I try to monitor it all week. But if there's a play that I like, I'll probably jump on it pretty early because the markets do move quite a bit. Especially nowadays, there's like some large favorites who become really large favorites now, because I know in the beginning of this year, the favorites have just been smashing and everyone's just been tossing together favorite parlays and getting rich off of that. So everyone is just trying to do it for every card now. And I don't know if you've looked at the card this weekend, it's all fat favorites.
Yeah.
Or not all, but the top few fights are fat favorites. I'm sure a lot of that it's like parlay liability and stuff, and they're just trying to keep moving it. But for me, yeah, I usually try to I'll take a look on like a Monday, but there's other things that you have to watch out for, like how well a weight cut goes for someone. That's something that you have to factor in if they have a shitty weight cut, because obviously these guys, big part of their job is making weight, and a lot of them are cutting like 20 pounds at a time, sometimes more. And if they have a shitty weight cut, it can affect their performance. I don't know. I used to wrestle. I remember in high school and shit. So I think the most I ever had to cut was 10 pounds, and I would always be like the worst. And they were, 20, 30 pounds. You can watch them weight cut because they'll do like a UFC embedded on the week of the pay-per-views, and they'll just follow around the fighters, and you can see them cut weight. They're just all miserable.
Yeah, there's a right way to cut weight. There's probably no right way to cut weight. Either way, it's bad. It's bad for your body, no matter what. But like, there's a right way to cut weight, and there's the wrong way to cut weight. And like, I wrestled as well in high school, and I knew some guys who like, it's like, man, you can't wait this long. until you're this close to the match, the tournament, to try to take those last like 4 pounds off. And the next day they'd be pale, they'd look like shit, they'd be tired, and then they'd eat, they'd overeat after a weigh-in, and then they'd look like shit and again. And it's like you can really screw that part of it up. And it's one of those things, just like any of the combat sports, you can't beat anybody until you beat the scale. It's a little different with just, some of these overweights, like in high school wrestling, if you don't make weight, you just don't wrestle.
Right.
This is with the money, they can just change the pot a little. It's
you get a choice, right? If your opponent doesn't make weight, then you can be like, I'll take a cut of his purse, which I mean, some of these guys are taking a small cut because some of these guys don't get paid enough. So they'll weigh that out based upon how they want their careers to progress. They'd rather get a dub than an L, but some of them rather just have the money. So because they need it, because it's like this sport doesn't have a lot of infrastructure, so I always support the people like these guys that come up from, like, even Connor, like he was like on welfare and going to training every day, and you have to pay for your training and all that shit. It's very like independent contractor type of work. There's no one that's paying for you, especially when you start. Maybe eventually you'll get some sponsors and stuff like that, but like the rise to be like a really good fighter, you start as like a nobody, and then maybe you show some skills, but you're still paying for your training, you're paying for your coaches, and to actually make it in the UFC, it's actually fucking hard. So these guys grind. I know a lot of people who fight who have to work second jobs, so that's why a ton of them will like move to cheap places like Thailand, Florida, and that's where all the good gyms are. Like here, like in San Diego, I don't know a lot of pro fighters who make it in San Diego because it's so fucking expensive. If you want to train, you got to work a second job, and it's hard.
Okay,
I got a buddy, his uncle moved to Thailand, completely different reasons, but he says it's pretty cheap out there too. I know some, like, I used to know some people, like at a previous job, some people that worked for me. Like once you get to know some employees, you get to know their personal lives a little more. And then one day I found out like the one lady owned an MMA gym. And
really?
a couple, and then a couple. So there's these gals that work, and they're 18, 19-year-old girls, and I found out like, they're like UFC fighters on the weekend and shit, and like the local rings and stuff. Like, and you find out where they fight, and it's like that's a bar, that's just
I've been to some
club.
I love going to fights, and I've been to some dusty fights in like bars and shit. So it's pretty funny, but it's like it's a tough sport to make it in. So these people who go to the UFC, I'm always pretty fucking impressed, regardless of how shitty they might perform on that given night. Making it to the UFC, it's a little easier now because they're trying to get some bodies in there, but it's still a tough sport.
Yep. I can only imagine especially because it grows in popularity, it grows in competitiveness, and the purses get bigger.
It's getting popular now.
Right. We're at the the hard work was done of kind of establishing itself as a mainstream entity, and now people are like, well, this is a career path for me, like I'll do it.
True. Yeah. Did you ever watch the John Boyce video
about UFC? No.
Yeah,
I should go check that out.
It's kind of long, but it's like the history of like UFC 1 and like the Gracies, and like it's and you know his videos, like he puts a lot.
Yeah, they're outstanding.
It's
the beginning.
It's like Mortal Kombat shit. Like they get these
1993
dudes from every discipline fighting against each other, and the original UFC was like a sick idea.
Yeah, it was probably spawned by what do you call it? The
best of the best.
The best of them now.
No.
What's the Jean-Claude Van Damme? What's the Jean-Claude Van Damme one? Where they
Bloodsport?
Jesus.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah. They
that it's called Fighting in the Age of Loneliness. It's like a 7-part series. It's like a couple hours long if you watch all of it. But yeah, like UFC 1 was a bracket style tournament. Like during one or 2 days or something like this. If you won your fight, like you had to fight again. That doesn't
wrestlers versus the jiu-jitsu guys,
like
versus the karate guys. Everyone sent like their dopest dude from every like martial art, and they're like, all right, go try to win, and then we'll try to prove which martial art is the best. And then the jiu-jitsu guy won, which is interesting because there was no weight class. Right. It was the Gracies. So
Gracie submitted all 3 of his opponents.
He did,
including
yeah.
Ken Shamrock.
There was no weight class either. So
yeah, they're just fighting like huge dudes and stuff.
And then so I mean,
incredible,
huge advertisement for jiu-jitsu, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That okay. Okay, so basically back to the question about getting, handicapping. It sounds like you're take like a flexible approach. Like maybe like you could bet early, like as soon as there's a market, if you're like, look, this guy's gonna get bet. I know it. I gotta take him at the dog now because he's closing the favorite.
Right.
And then is there sometimes where you're like kind of following them on like social media, or you're just kind of like getting tips from other people as you talk about the upcoming events where you're like, oh shit, this is newsworthy. The market is slow on it. We better get down now.
Yeah, for sure. It's these UFC fighters are really accessible. Like I talked to a couple UFC fighters in the DMs, and it's crazy like that. That's why it's it's some pirate shit. You can talk to these people. You can DM them. They'll answer you. I talked to some dudes on TikTok, and they'll answer your questions, and it's interesting. But yeah, there's obviously I follow all the social medias because I'm a big narrative guy. I want to know, is your girlfriend hot? That's huge for confidence boost and all that. But you can find out a lot.
Do you ask that outright, or do you just ask for proof?
No, you go to the IG. You go to the IG.
I'm on Instagram, so I got eyes on all the girlfriends.
Okay.
And I mean, back to the markets, it's a weird market because like the NFL, unless there's a quarterback that's hurt and we don't know if he's going to play or not on Sunday, all the markets are up. And you know what? You can bet the next week too. It's already there. All the games that are happening are there. But like, I mean, just take for instance this weekend's fights. And this is a question for Aaron. Like, how long ago was this fight set up and said this is happening? Just the main one, the Korean zombie fight. How long ago was that? Months?
Yeah, months. Because these guys train for what, like 8 weeks to 10 weeks usually, and then that'll lead up to their fight. But I know the zombie fight was a little bit more short notice because Max Holloway was supposed to fight. But yeah, typically it's 8 to 10 weeks. So they're training and they know who they have to fight. They have to do all that game planning. It's just like,
once the fight is announced, markets go up for that.
Yeah, typically,
So you got fights this weekend. You could have bet on this more. And again, maybe limits were low for some people if they want to be, betting the shit out of this stuff. But you could have bet on this months ago. And then at the same time, some of these undercard fights are coming together this week. Like you don't even know who the undercard is early in the week. So like you've got a wide array of as far as how markets mature. And then also, you said that too, Drew. It's almost like a future bet. You got to decide like, do I think this number is so fucked up that I should bet this now? Is it worth letting someone hold my money for 2.5 months? Is it that much value?
Well, I just want to give you a little context. So 274 Oliveira versus Gaethje is up now. You can get $1,000 limits at Chris on that if you want Gaethje as the dog. June 11th, UFC 275 is up right now. Glover Teixeira versus Jiri. Apparently, Teixeira is the dog there. You can also get $1,000 limits at Chris right now. So, you can get down on these long time in advance. Looks like 3 other. And interesting that UFC 274, by the way, is taking on boxing for Cinco de Mayo weekend. Usually that's the big boxing weekend to go with the Derby, but looks like our man team horse parlay might include a UFC fighter this year, Andy.
Dude, yeah, I mean UFC is gonna blow boxing out. Boxing is pretty popular, but in terms of like popularity between the martial arts, the combat sports, UFC it's so much bigger than boxing at the moment.
I think you drive about 20 miles south. There might be some people that argue with you on that one.
Bro,
boxing is.
I think in 10 years, I think UFC is going to be one.
I've seen enough Canelo Alvarez fights. I don't need to see him beat the shit out of Dimitri Bivol.
I mean, Jake Paul runs boxing now, right? So
is he fighting? I don't think he's fighting on Cinco de Mayo.
No, I don't think he is. But eventually, he'll get a fight.
That's a good point.
Can you imagine that Alvarez and him? I'd watch that.
Everyone would watch that. Jake Paul shit right now. Him and Logan. Did you guys see Logan Paul at WrestleMania?
No, that's wild though.
That's pretty dope.
That's a big stage. Okay, so then as you get closer, as you get more information, as the market matures, you made a good point. I think that a card like this, which is heavy chalk at the top. Like I don't even think you can parlay the top three: Volkanovski, Jan, and Kamzat. I think parlayed together that still doesn't get you to an even money bet.
No, I don't think it does.
So maybe they're starting to learn. But you think that in general,
I think it did at one point, but it's moved so much. Like I don't know what Volkanovski opened as. Yeah, he opened as minus 400. So it's a huge movement. Jeez. Yeah, usually they'll toss out like a soft line, let it get popped, and then it'll move and shape into what it is now. But
okay,
yeah, that's
as a casual,
minus 200 parlay right now.
As a former casual, sadly admitted former casual, I always assumed that like booking the UFC was like a bookmaker's dream, because you had two types of players: the players that just come in only to score the long shots, or the players that come in only to parlay the favorites, and that in general, that you're basically looking at your book for every fight as it starts, and you're laughing like, we got a 20% hold this time. Good job, guys. Right? Like that's kind of my general feel for how it works out. Is that fair, or is this actually a sharp market at this point?
I think it used to be a lot easier to beat, and it's becoming progressively more sharp and tough to beat. So I know back probably 5 years ago, you could just bet on the wrestlers and they typically win, and that was like as easy as that. But now, since the sport's getting more and more advanced, people are getting better. It's a pretty young sport. I don't know when UFC 1 was. It's like early 90s. So I don't know. People are just getting a lot better, and as it gets more popular, more people are trying to bet it. It's betting a UFC card on any given night is my favorite betting experience, because you can just, there's live bets you can bet on. You can pop off you can make like a big parlay of the entire card. And I know some people do that. And I don't know. To me, the market itself is getting a lot more difficult to beat. 5 years ago was easier. So I think it's getting a little sharper.
I had to go find an old DM and I feel like maybe in boxing and maybe even tennis, golf, people have their guys, and it's an individual sport, and there's a little bit of a narrative, and especially with these these combat sports where they're warriors, gladiators, and they have this cult of personality, and they're drinking out of shoes and doing backflips off the cage, and like there's a not a cult, but a cult of personality around some of these guys. It felt like back in the day there were people that would just bet because like that was their guy. Like it felt like there was a lot of dumb money that came in. I had to find this, and I didn't think this DM was that long ago, but Wes Colvin, true UK, the Sodsman, the Kentucky Sodsman,
the goat, yeah.
But this is from 2019 when I was I had to scroll all the way back. I said it was Colby Usman, like the first one back then. And I said, I thought some people I was talking to, maybe Bo or some other people that had done UFC, had talked about it. And I really wanted to bet Usman. And the number was like, I feel like maybe the number was going the other way. And I asked him, hey, this Colby character, is he just taking money from like MAGA chuds? I wrote that. Like, I'm like, do people just like him because he's like on that side of the
100%.
aisle?
That still goes on.
And he's like, not all of it, but yeah, probably. He's like, I like Usman too, and that was all she wrote. I bet Usman that day.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. There's definitely some big money that comes in, like on fight day. I don't know. I know, what was it, like 2 UFCs ago? One of the dudes' dad was in the crowd. He had like terminal cancer, and he had come to see his son fight. And they were playing that like montage on ESPN, like, oh, here's his dad, he has terminal cancer. This line just kept moving. It was like, I think he was minus 200. And by the time the montage ended, he was minus like 280. And he lost in the first round in like a minute. So there's definitely a lot of dumb money that comes in, some sentimental money. I don't know if you want to call it narrative money.
Sure.
Yeah. It is.
But
I mean,
some narratives
we respect Narrative Nation for
right. I was gonna say some narratives definitely.
Some narratives are real, some are not. That's fine. It's as long as you know which ones are real, then you're good. Exactly. So let's talk about how to bet UFC. So I'm guessing that the markets that open up, just because I'm looking at like the future now, out of curiosity, I can only bet money lines. But for this weekend's event, which looks like about 12 fights total, There are lots of ways to attack. Money line, you can bet totals. And the totals, by the way, if you're new to this, is the actual halfway point of the round if you bet 2.5 or 1.5. Like you have to
when
get
did
to.
You learn that?
I learned that the hard way in 2018, maybe.
The hard way.
Yeah, I was like, once round 3 started and like a big fight, I was like, over 2.5. We got it. Put it on the board. And then it graded NL, and I was on like that night, quite drunk, talking to the rep, like, you guys have fucked me. Like, this is absolutely unacceptable. Like,
I might be the only person who learned it the opposite of the hard way.
Okay.
Like
you thought you got bank error in your favor.
It was the Conor fight.
Okay.
The Conor Mayweather, like I had over 9.5 or whatever it was, and I just like, oh, I guess it wasn't meant to be, and because I thought I had to get to 10, I had to get to 10 rounds or whatever. It won by like 4 seconds, and it was one of those two where you get on the phone with your agent if it's an L and it's not supposed to be. If it's the other way, you just be like, well, I'll check it tomorrow, see if the money's still there. And then I talked to somebody, I'm like, I think I got away with one, and they basically told me I was an idiot.
Yeah, actually, and we should just do a little asterisk. Check your house rules. Not every place grades it the same way, but almost all of the shops.
I think for MMA, I've never seen anyone.
Yeah, there are some weird there are some skins, paperheads that are bizarre with house rules. So just be sure to know your house rules. And in fact, if you just read the fucking rules of almost anything, you could find an edge. That's just a little free alpha for you.
I got free after the show on that.
Oh, good. So then in general, like across the menu of opportunities for a given fight night, is it, let's say you have a small edge on a small favorite and you're like, this isn't going to take much action. He's still going to be the small favorite when we get to fight night. Like, I'm going to wait it out. And the line is the same 2 weeks later, nothing's happened. And you're thinking like, okay, I got an edge on the favorite, but really like this is being lined like it's going to be a much shorter fight than I actually think. So I'm going to attack the total. Am I kind of talking through a rational process about a given fight, or do you just kind of stick to the money line?
The handicapping process is a little different. Whenever I start, I'll just like watch old fights, and that's kind of how I decipher whether or not I want to bet on something. If I see someone is like dangerous or has good finishing ability, then I'll try to attack the totals. But yeah, typically I like to stick with the money line stuff. But like you said, have you been on bestfightodds.com?
I'm there right now.
Is that where you're right?
Yes, I'm right there right now.
Shit you can bet on. You can bet on like everything. It hasn't been this way for a long time, but it's starting to come. And there's a lot of derivatives and stuff that you can kind of bet on. So you can bet on what round it ends in. You can bet on the way it ends, whether it's by submission or the guy gets knocked out or you think it's going to go to decision. So yeah, I mean, there's the market it's pretty fat at the moment, and a lot of people, you can get some big numbers on some of these. So when I'm watching tape, I'll try my best to like figure out strengths, weaknesses. This guy looks like he's a good submission guy, and this guy has shitty submission defense. Why would I take the money line when I can take the sub price, which will a lot of times be, minus 110 versus plus 500 or however the bookies line it. A lot of times they're just not woke to how good someone is, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I attack it. But
do you see a correlation in those markets? Like if a guy gets steamed from 400 to 800, like Volkanovski, like is his inside the distance price move accordingly, or is it a totally separate market? It usually does.
Yeah,
okay.
It usually does. Yeah. Some depending on some of the results, like submission versus KO. People are getting a lot sharper, so they'll know which one's to steam, and a lot of them get more action than others, so they'll steam up. But yeah, they're generally like something like someone who's minus 800 is in the distance line is probably gonna steam up just because people. I mean, this guy should be dominant, should fuck this dude up, but who knows?
It seems similar to some of the conversations we've had around golf, as we chuckled about not mentioning golf today because we're sick of it. But like 3-4 years ago, this Masters week was not only special because it's the Masters, because the sports books would have props coming out of your ass. Like
Yeah.
you could bet everything. Like it was like, oh my god,
You could parlay, make the cuts.
You could you could bet if there's a hole in one or not. Now, like all those markets we're excited about for golf during a Masters week are like every single week. It's what it's the same kind of thing where you're just seeing all these new markets open up, and it's not just the special events anymore. It's every week, and like I love what you're saying. Like that's where you can find some money, especially if somebody who's new to it, and if you want to start watching some tape and you think you can identify some stuff. I think that's where some of the value is, even though I'm guessing those limits are a little lower on props. But like somebody who's just getting started isn't going to be maxing shit for 10K on UFC anyway. So like
which you can't even do today, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm kind of shocked that Chris is only going to take 5K on this weekend's fights.
Really?
Yeah. What's up with that?
That is
maybe it's just your account. They're scared.
They wait for the weigh-ins.
That's I've definitely seen some people put down some much larger bets than that. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they wait for weigh-ins or what. But I've been with a couple of dudes who put down some fairly large bets on fight night, so it might just be their accounts.
Interesting.
No, but I mean, like you said, if
might need to get in touch with those people. Doing other sports that do those accounts.
If you're paying attention and you find yourself an edge, you say like, I don't think the price is right because this guy's sub defense sucks so much that like betting against him would be silly. I have to bet, at least part of my bet has to be his opponent wins by submission or something like that. It used to be remember the 5-way market, Drew, in boxing.
Oh, sure,
It was draw, win, or win by knockout. This is like a 9-way market because you have submissions, DQs, and all that. You can bet anything.
Yeah, it's the derivative market is huge now. It wasn't always this way. It's pretty recent. I think, especially after COVID, once everyone started getting real into it, I think that was a huge bump for the UFC. So when people started to realize, oh, this shit's kind of dope, I should pay attention. But yeah, there's lots of money making opportunities and in the derivative markets. These usually open on like the week of.
Sure.
They don't open like whatever months out or whatever they
for sure, yeah.
The fights, but yeah.
Bet Online's only going to take 2K for this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
They're gonna
what they're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, they're gonna. They probably open. It probably goes up.
They're probably busy with the Masters right now. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's busy. Yeah, there's a lot going on in sports with baseball starting in too. Like I don't know why but they decided to hang 900 player props for season-long player props for baseball.
Is that tomorrow? Baseball start tomorrow?
Baseball starts tomorrow. Yeah.
I feel like boxing is that way too, though, Drew. Like it's not like football where it's Monday, Wednesday, and then it's just high. Like I think it's a real gradual, and then you get to like the day of the fight and it just jacks the fuck up. So I feel like boxing was that way.
I think that's how it is. Yeah, I mean,
so let me ask you about the social media handicapping side of things.
Okay.
Can you give me an example of you made a bet or you changed your mind on a fight based on something you saw somebody doing on Instagram or is their girlfriend doing on Instagram?
Usually when I look at an Instagram or whatever, it's usually to see where they're training, if they've been training, that type of thing.
Okay.
So a thing I'll look at is like, where people are training, and there are camps, right? People will usually set up camp wherever, and based upon where you're training, I'll either, give you a bump or give you a bump down based upon that. Because when you're in a room training, usually you're training with training partners. And if you have high level training partners, I think that's an edge that you can have as a fighter. So a lot of people, they train, they're like the best dude at their gym, but they aren't going against anyone good, right? So whatever, fish, small pond, big, whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, so if I'll look at that and I'll see where they're training, that's usually what I try to look at. I was kind of joking about the girlfriend stuff, but
no, but like,
look at your girlfriend.
Okay, no, that's no.
I feel like that was big during when I was, and again, maybe this is just narrative Andy, because this is when I was listening to like 4 UFC podcasts a week to try to figure out what to bet that weekend. But it did seem different during that pandemic stretch, when gyms were closed, and
people were
a lot of people like garages. Yeah, there was like 8 camps that were like, oh, this guy's a garage guy, like he's training in his garage, he's got a sparring partner local that's coming over.
Yeah,
and it was weird. Like, some of these people were at a severe disadvantage because they couldn't get to a sparring partner or a gym that could, help them get to where they needed to be by fight time. And I mean, some of these guys just looked like shit, because you could tell, like, oh man, you didn't get the training in.
Yeah,
like,
training
you can only jump so much rope.
I don't know how. Yeah, especially during the pandemic, because gyms were closed, so you're either trying to like go to your garage. I know here in California, when people were trying to train, they were getting busted up by cops, and cops were like, you guys can't train here. So that's definitely something that's super important, and definitely something. I mean, I'll always flip through. Maybe they're on like a bender, and you don't know. You look at their story, and they're drinking like 2 weeks out. John Jones can do that, but I don't know many others who should be partying before their fights.
Okay. Or is there any gym training that has especially good diet and exercise routines for their guys?
I mean, there's some sick gyms. Most of them there's probably like 5 or 6 gyms that are solid that most people train at. But if you go to Thai, so I used to live I went to Thailand, lived in Thailand for probably 6 months, and I trained at Tiger Muay Thai, which is one of the bigger gyms there. And it's pretty funny because you can just walk into a pharmacy and get whatever you want there. So it's pretty, the drug testing in the UFC is pretty stringent, but I think if you're out of the country,
but it's all about competing clean, right?
What?
It's all about competing clean.
Yeah, you gotta compete clean, right?
So they don't do any testing during the training, right?
No, you can get tested whenever.
Okay. I was gonna say,
if they can find you.
If they can find you. If you're in Thailand, it's a little tougher.
Yeah, there are some Olympic athletes, not going to name countries, Kenya, Jamaica, where you can't find the athletes out of competition to test them for like 3 years. And so they're like, well, if you can't find them to test them, then there's nothing they can do, but they show up and they run clean. And that's that.
Those guys' piss are burning through porcelain.
It's accessible. Yeah, I mean, some of these, you know how it was, Andy. You were a stud high school wrestler, right? This shit's hard. So sometimes you need a little something to get you going.
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, just not me personally, but Coke doesn't put on much weight.
Are you worried at all about the UFC surviving in the wake of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? I mean, a lot of these guys are going to get pulled into like mercenary status, right?
Yeah, I know there's actually in Bellator, which is the UFC's like kind of rival, kind of like JV league. Like one of the champions just stayed in Ukraine to fight. He had to cancel one of his fights. So obviously fighting, a big part of it's like the Russians are kind of dominating right now. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but yeah, there's something called the Russian tax, where if you're just Russian, you'll get bet up. There's value on the other side just because everyone just thinks they should be betting the Russians, so they'll bet the Russians. And yeah, who knows? But I think we'll survive. UFC's pretty. Hasbulla is still chilling. Have you guys seen the Hasbulla interview yet?
I love that guy.
Great ambassador for it, really.
His content's so good.
That laugh is
his little giggle. Sometimes I don't even like when they have subtitles on. I don't want to know what he's saying. I just enjoy his laugh.
Yeah, it's the laugh.
It's just straight good vibes out of that guy.
They need to get him.
I'm not worried about UFC at all. Like, if they made it through pandemic and
they'll have a fight in Ukraine probably if they could. Like, Dana White would do whatever. So
yeah, this is coming from a mortar crater. This is they like fucking fight. How nuts was Fight Island? Like, I feel like things move so fast that we take things for granted and don't realize like did they just buy an island to have like.
I was trying to kayak to Fight Island. I don't know if you saw my memes of me kayaking to Fight Island, but I was like, dude, I gotta get there. That looks pretty sick.
This is in Jacksonville.
This one is, this weekend.
Is that a good venue?
No, it's
There's
Rank
fewer
Rank it on
rules.
a 1 to 10 ring girl scale. This Jacksonville as a venue is a.
I mean, I'm a Titans fan, so I think it's a 1. But the thing about Jacksonville is the judges suck, and that's something you have to always consider when you're handicapping MMA. I went back and I looked at all the old Jacksonville cards. That was like one of the pandemic spots. That was a spot that opened up during the pandemic, and there were just some really bad scorecards. Like one of the fights there had 30-27 for one chick, and then 27-30 for that same chick. So opposite scorecards, which is obviously like you have two different judges looking at the fight, and you think this girl won, but the other girl thinks this girl
won all three. Not
all
only
three
one,
rounds,
but won all 3 rounds.
all 3 rounds.
So like Jacksonville legitimately has fewer laws and rules than Fight Island.
Oh,
it's not a good place.
Oh, no.
We've been over this for other stuff.
I think I'd rather have like Blake Bortles be a judge than the ones that I think they'll probably getting better because they're doing more MMA events in Florida, so more people will get licensed. But a lot of times these spots will just pull like boxing judges, which obviously if you're a wrestler and the boxing judge doesn't really give a fuck if you're getting a lot of takedowns and stuff like that. So the judging actually, it's been pretty bad historically in Jacksonville.
Did you have to make a tough choice? Did you have to make a tough choice between going up career path of UFC judge versus being a social media influencer in the
I should.
Space?
I think I should actually jump in and be a judge.
Maybe too late.
The rule book
there may be a little bit too much of a track record of gambling.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
it's always fun
on your name.
On Twitter. People are like complaining about robberies. Usually people are complaining about robberies because that's the person they bet on and they lost. But
but there have been some really shitty ones where everyone. Even
the Jacksonville one was honestly like as bad as it gets.
Even respectable, like people that I respect, like in the space that put out a ton of UFC content for years, like we brought up Sodsman and Shaughnessy, and just some of those guys, like they'll say like, hey, I bet this person and I won, but that wasn't right.
Yeah, that's what they say.
They know.
They say it evens out at the end of the day, but still it fucking sucks.
If you bet enough, it's just like a bad.
It's so rough.
It does not feel
so
good.
rough. When you're on the wrong side of a bad card, oh man,
it sucks. When you get to one of those events and like you watch one of the undercards and you see like. And I'm not very good at this, but I have a general idea, and I love a second screen when I'm watching UFC because I love following what everyone else is saying about the fight.
Absolutely,
and,
most enjoyable part.
And then like everybody, like all the guys I'm talking to, and Brett, and all those people that really take it in, and you talking about the fight, and then you see the cards, and it's the opposite of what everyone and what I saw. And you're just, it just puts a bad feeling for the rest of the
right.
The like you're just worried. Any bet you have, you're like, Jesus, you need to finish this. We can't go to the cards here. I can't go to the card. I can't risk that.
There's certain judges you hear because they announce the names before they say, they say Sal Diamato scores it, blah, and you hear their names and your just heart sinks. So you don't know who the judges are before you hear the scorecards, but when you hear their names and you're like, please no, don't be that dude. You just know you're about to get fucked.
Well, the refs, like I watch a lot of the higher end events. Like Herb's going to be there.
Oh yeah,
they're bringing him everywhere. There's a few refs. These guys come if it's a big UFC event, they have their few refs that they use. Why isn't that the same with judges? Like, why don't they pick out like 6 really, really good judges? And like, there's so much money at the top.
Each state has like a commission that you have to
that's
take a
what
test
I was
for
wondering.
and all that shit. So that's why when they go to these places like New York, Texas, Florida, they don't have a ton of MMA judges. So they'll just grab boxing judges, whoever has experience. And boxing is obviously a fucking really different sport than MMA because there's a lot more involved.
There's not as many points for takedowns.
Right. No takedown. You probably get DQ'd in boxing if you end up taking them down. So It's and the refs. I mean, the refs. Some of them will let you die in there, and some of them will stop the fights early if they see you're getting beat up.
Some people are talking in the chat about Herb Dean. Like, he's let a couple go a little longer than I thought like,
Or
holy
they
shit,
stop it too early.
he wants to see this guy die. Like,
Yeah,
this is
sort of-
fucking terrible.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like boxing is one of the oldest sports to bet on as human beings, and they haven't figured it out. So I think we can pull our punches a little on.
It's
UFC.
tough. I do sympathize with them sometimes. I'll be like, it's tough when you're in there and you're like, should I stop this? Should I not? Because if I stop it, this guy's gonna get mad at me and he's gonna want to fight me, and he's a fighter, and I don't want to get beat up.
Herb's a big guy.
Yeah, they're all big dudes, but it's some of them are just it's very tilting. I just had a bet where a guy I took an under 4.5. It was Moicano versus RDA, and they should have stopped the fight probably in the second round, but the ref just kept letting the dude get beat up. Moicano was getting beat up. They brought the doctor in. The ref was like, do you want to keep going? Obviously, if you're a fighter, you're not going to say no because you don't look like a pussy. So you're like, all right, I want to keep going. And your coaches, a lot of the time, you're like not going to let you stop. So as a ref, you have to be like, all right, dude, you're getting fucking wrecked. We should stop now. And he didn't do that, and it went over, and it was the most tilting thing ever. And I think a lot of people are on that same play.
Well, it is got to be tough to be a ref because it's quick. I mean, some things are happening so fast, and a guy gets knocked down, and there's that split second where is his head going to hit the canvas, or is he going to pop back up into like, what's it called when you do the turtle thing on your back?
What do you mean go to guard?
And guard, yeah, and go to guard. Like, well, you just, there's like that quick second. It's like, when you see a guy get hit hard, it's like this guy might be out for the count, or he might just roll through this and pop back up. And those refs got to be in there, and they got to be ready for anything there. And so again, some of them are just like, fuck it, like just keep hitting him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy job, and some will get a lot of backlash on social media because they stopped it too quickly.
Sure.
And then the next event they're taking too long because they don't want to get fucking yelled at again. So it's you can tell a lot of refs just lose a lot of confidence in there, but it's all the same dudes. They should fucking know how to do it by now.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this particular card a little bit in detail.
Yes.
Is there anything on UFC 273, either the main event or preliminary or early preliminary card, that you would say is a no doubt slam dunk, 5 stars out of 5 stars? Cannot miss this fight.
I think the top 3, like the Khamzat Chimaev fight versus Gilbert Burns. Khamzat is probably like the hottest prospect that I've seen in a while. He's the prince that was promised.
He's the Carlos Alcaraz of UFC.
Right. This guy is scary as fuck. He looks like he was in a Taken movie, but he looks like if he were to take Liam Neeson's daughter, Liam Neeson would just be like, all right, I'm good. You can just have her. Yeah. That type of thing. He's a scary dude. Good prospect. Been finishing dudes pretty frequently. So I don't think he's been past the 1.5 mark either. So that fight is very good. My pound for pound, a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I think Peter Yan is probably pound for pound the best fighter in the UFC, skill wise, and he fights on the fight card. And then just the Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie fight will be awesome too. They're, I mean, obviously like very large favorites, but I still think the fights as spectacles will be fun to watch, and it's always fun to cheer for these underdogs too. So the card top to bottom is as good as it gets for the UFC. So I'm excited. I think you guys have to watch the whole thing, dude. Fuck the mess.
I'm going to. Like, golf will be over by then. It's fine. Like,
no, I'm saying
I already told I told the wife, I'm like, this is the weekend that I canceled my family Easter with my mother, so I can just watch sports all weekend. So
Saturday is going to be golf into UFC into F1, because F1 is going to be
F1 is in the Dan is all about staying up all night.
Right,
and
so,
the Cosmot guy. At first it said he's like, oh, this is Swedish guy. I'm like, this motherfucker is Swedish.
Have you seen him?
I dug into him a little. He's from Chechnya.
He's Chechen.
Somebody who's from Chechnya scares the shit out of me.
These dudes are scary as hell. That's why I said if he was in a Taken movie, Liam Neeson would
mercenary
be like,
shit.
Dude, he can have her.
Should we take a Kamsat question here, Drew?
Go for it. Yeah. As long as you're on it, go for it.
Question for Water Show.
Okay.
There's some lines out there for a Khamzat versus Usman future fight with Khamzat as a small dog. Am I crazy for looking? I'll hang up and listen.
No, I think I mean, Usman is, a lot of people call Usman the pound for pound best fighter. Obviously, there's not a lot of data to go off of with Khamzat in terms of how deep he goes into fights, because he's only had really short fights. So that's the one thing that a lot of people will say is like, all right, what if he gets to the third round? Is this guy going to be dope still? Usman's really good, but I think, I don't think it's I think Khamzat will get a lot of love, honestly. But yeah, I think like I said, not a lot of data, so I think I'd probably favor Usman in that situation.
What weight class is that, Aaron?
170.
It's not that big. I think the biggest thing I've seen from even in UFC, but definitely in like high school and college wrestling, like there have been some bigger guys like heavyweight, ultra heavyweight, or even like the middle or the 215ers is what we had in Minnesota. But some of those guys that were real good, but they were big. They had problems if they ran into somebody who was almost as good as them.
Yeah.
That wouldn't they would just pin so many people or finish people so fast. And then all of a sudden they'd go against somebody who wasn't as good as them, but wasn't going to lose quickly. And they'd get to like the second period. This guy is sucking air and dying. It's like, oh shit, he's going to lose to someone much worse than, they're not much, but somebody who's not as good as him because he has no conditioning and we just haven't seen it yet this year.
That's what it is. It's like, if you've never seen the third round, it helps. Like some people will try to make their fight go longer and draw it out.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because they want to know what it feels like to be in the third round, because this shit's tiring as hell. So yeah, Khamzat is like I've never seen as much hype as I've seen around Khamzat in all the years I've been watching MMA. It's been like 10, 15 years or whatever. And he's people that train with him say he's the best he's ever trained with. But in terms of seeing him gathering data in the ring on fight nights, it's there's not a lot out there because he just smashes everybody.
He's the Mike Tyson who was one.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's kind of like Mike Tyson.
Okay. Right? Just from your description of the kind of the way that fight would set up, I would guess you have to get a dog price early on him, because a lot of people are going to line up because they want to be on the ride the wave of the next greatest guy.
I think hype drives a lot of the market.
Brings up a big question: would Usman take the fight?
Yeah, for sure. He has to. I don't think he has.
He doesn't have a choice.
No, yeah, you don't. I mean, if you're the champ and he's the next guy up, then you don't have much of a choice. Plus, that division itself, 170. Colby, right? Andy, I think you said you bet against Colby. He's the only other guy that's decent in the division that can like actually be competitive with Usman. So Usman is really good. Like I said, he's like the pound for pound best for a lot of people. I kind of disqualify him a little bit because he's huge. Like he's a 170, but on fight night he weighs like 200 pounds. So I'm like, pound for pound, I want you to be, if you're that much bigger than everyone else, that's cool that you're dominant, but you're still that much bigger than everyone else. But yeah, Khamzat, I think in size can probably match him too, because I think he's fought a weight class up.
But I mean, back to weight cutting, that's a skill set in and of itself. Like the guys who can fluctuate like that and it doesn't seem to bother them.
Yeah.
And back to like high school wrestling, there was one guy who was like, again, he'd be like in some of the tournaments you could weigh in the night before. And I mean, he was like a 135 pounder that'd be wrestling at 146 the next day. Like it's just that's like a 5% difference in body weight for some of these people, and it makes a big damn difference.
That's how it is for Usman. He's huge. He has 170 and he
hasn't lost since 2013.
Right.
He hasn't fought since November 2021. So so let's say Khamzat takes care of business this week in convincing fashion and is the next guy up. Do they put like Usman on a like a summer card and then set the two of them up for a later in the year? Like, what's the periodicity of getting a fight like that onto a card? Like, because I can't imagine Usman loves the idea of not fighting again until
Yeah, that's true. Well, someone will take one fight a year and they're cool with that. Usman, I don't think he fights that often. It's just for Usman, there just hasn't been a lot of people that have been able to match up with him. So I think they would delay it for Khamzat if he wins. I think he wins. I think he wins pretty easily. He's fighting Gilbert Burns, who Usman's already ran through. He knocked him out. So I think in terms of timeline, I think they draw it out a little bit, get a big fight going, maybe get Fight Island rocking, and
Usman fought three times in 2021.
Signed collectibles. I didn't know signed collectibles are mostly a guy who gets into the chat on here and Brown Bag on tennis. He is all in on UFC. He has a lot of takes in here, and he's all about. It sounds like he's about getting in early. He said if he steamrolls, he's favored over Usman. He says maybe a July fight.
Usman. You mentioned Usman. Usman rolled through Burns February. He turned around and fought in April against Masvidal. Also beat him, knocked him out via punches, and then came back in November to do
beat Colby again.
Part 2 versus Colby. Yeah.
I watched that one. I like Usman. He's a fun guy, but now I feel like just in the last 20, 25 minutes, I'm a Khamzat. I still can't even say his name.
Khamzat.
Khamzat.
That's how you say it.
I'm a Khamzat fanboy. Like
he's sick. He's pretty dumb. You have to watch him. He's scary as fuck.
Scary ears. He's got the real scary cauliflower ears. He's got the scary beard. And I watched a little action, so I think I'm a fanboy. So I'm in on that.
Okay, so let's talk main event for a second then. Featherweight fight, Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie. Where does the Korean Zombie rank in terms of UFC nicknames? And it's at the top, or it's near the top?
Well, I mean, he's very popular in terms of he's been around for a while. So people love Korean Zombie. If you're an MMA diehard, this is your guy. He's an action guy. People love action, right? So he's gonna go in there and have a good fight. But that nickname, that's a solid nickname. I parlayed Siwoo and Korean Zombie by knockout.
All right. What's his path to victory? Is it knockout?
Probably knockout. Yeah, I don't think he has.
I thought you were talking Siwoo.
And he might be able to knock someone out. He gets pretty angry, right? I've seen him miss some putts. But I think his path to victory is probably knockout. So I don't think he has much of a chance against Volkanovski. Volkanovski used to weigh 200 pounds. He used to play rugby, professional rugby. So I always say my best base for MMA. Some people say it's wrestling. Some people say it's Sambo or Muay Thai. I say it's rugby because these guys are all savages. And Volkanovski used to weigh like 200 pounds, and now he weighs 145. So he carried that strength down with him, and you can see it in there. He just tosses dudes around. And he's also got a gas tank that if I'm looking at a fighter and I want to evaluate how good they are, I start with how good their gas tank is. And you'll watch Volkanovski in the 5th round, 4th round, he's not even breathing hard. So he's a savage. I don't think Korean Zombie has much of a chance.
I flipped the TV on the other day, Drew, this a couple weeks ago, and whatever channel wife had it on before had the Six Nations on, and I watched a shitload of rugby one morning. Like it's just
oh, dude. I was betting on rugby during the COVID shit, like the NRL. Have you ever bet on that?
Oh yeah. I've bet Aussie rules.
Like chase.
Staggering, like what these men do to each other, like how hard they hit without any pads. Like a few guys have like the real soft helmet on. It's like a stocking hat. Stupid.
And like the way they tackle, it's like a wrestling takedown. It's not like a NFL tackle, so it preps them pretty well. They all
they're changing level. It looks like a takedown in the octagon for sure.
They all look like Ray Lewis.
Okay, so if the top 3 parlay, you can actually get it right around even odds. Korean Zombie is the parlay buster.
I would say no. If I had to make a case for Aljo, it would be a shitty split decision type of thing in Jacksonville. Like I could see that potentially happening. It's a big octagon, so he might be able to move around, try to outpoint Peter. That's one path that I see for him, but I think it's pretty low chance on that. But yeah, I know. I think Peter is going to run through them. But if I had to pick between those 3, those are all very 3 dominant dudes. I'd say Aljo might have a chance to get like a dusty split decision in Jacksonville. I think Volkanovski finishes Korean Zombie, and I think who's the other fight? Khamzat finishes Gilbert pretty easily. But the way that Peter fights against Aljo, he likes to take his time. And, Aljo, did you see that they fought before, right? Have you seen that
Yeah.
fight? He kneed him in the face. So it just depends on how Aljo approaches that fight. He might be able to.
I think that's my
that was
best
the
best bet.
Oh,
Then
yeah, I
Cam's
remember
at
that.
what's the
Oh.
best price? You have we have best fights odds up. I don't know why I didn't look at this tab instead of looking at freaking six sports.
I feel like if it wasn't
idiots.
for the DQ though, Jan crushes him in that fight.
Oh, he was eating him up. Yeah,
Eating
it just
him.
depends on how you approach the fight, though, because Aljo in that fight was going balls to the wall, 100 miles per hour. He was trying to like out volume him, and he ran out of gas, and he couldn't take Peter down. He's a wrestler, couldn't take Peter down, but there is a scenario where he tries to outpoint Peter. He just sticks to the outside and is able to, like I said, the Jacksonville judges fucking suck. So if he gets to the bell, then there's a potential that, he can get that split decision, dusty decision or something. But
why isn't that one fight up on best fight odds? Why isn't Camsat up there?
I think it's just the site's fucked up. If it's on the bottom.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you see it? It's like on the bottom.
Oh, really? I didn't.
It's on the very bottom.
All right, I'll scroll down. I was trying to find. I want to find like by DK or by TKO, knockout, or DQ price.
I think a lot of people, if you were to ask that question, a lot of people they say Camsat is the parlay buster just because they haven't seen a lot of them, and he doesn't.
They don't know him like we do.
Yeah, that's our boy. So
I mean,
I just don't think Gilbert's.
The under 1.5 got bet hard. It's down.
Yeah, that's what. Right, that's one of my bets. I think.
What is Camsat's nickname? We said Korean Zombie's the best nickname.
The Wolf.
I'm kind of like
not that dope.
I don't know if I like the guy, but Last Stylebender's a good nickname.
That's a sick one. What would your fight nickname be?
Venezuelan Vixen's already taken. which
the Minnesota Madhouse?
Yeah.
Minnesota Mauler. Yeah.
I feel like that was a wrestler from the Preacher's Daughters.
Andy's more of I feel like Andy's more of a mucker. He's gonna muck it up. He's a Minnesota mucker. Yeah.
Iron Lady, Iron
Lady,
Tiny Tornado, they're all taken.
Minnesota
Karate Hottie.
That's
Karate Hottie. Karate Hottie is a good one. That's just a good nickname too. But for sure, Last Stylebender's my favorite men's nickname. Although I am comes up fan.
What would your walkout song be? Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh, man. I have a 10-year-old. I have a 10-year-old daughter, Aaron. I might be pushing the limits on how much Olivia I've listened to. It's pretty heavy.
You're talking to a huge fan, so you're not a fan.
It's big in my house. It's been big, but no, we didn't talk about the women's fights. Do you avoid those? I see a lot of chatter on that where it's like, there's two trains of thought. Like some people, they're like, I'm betting every over in every women's fight ever, or I'm just not betting women's fights. Ooh, Andy Molotov.
I think a lot of them or at least the odds makers will have that same train of thought. So they'll be like, all right, let's just juice the over a ton. So I think that opens up a lot of value on the under. I know a lot of unders have been coming through, and you can get like +2, +300 unders based upon just because they're chicks and then they're not good at finishing. But some of them are good at jiu-jitsu. Some of them just suck, so they get finished. And I think that's actually something that I bet a lot. I like to try to identify women's unders to take. The overs come through, a decent amount, but there's always some opportunities to jump on I guess that's an anti-narrative.
The women's total contrarian at Top Hockey.
Yeah.
We haven't
the last time I bet a women's over, like somebody put me on it. And I think I bet the side too, and it came out all right. But it was that Rose fight where against Jessica and the one girl came out in like an Indian headdress, and
Andrade.
And then like a little bit into the fight, the one girl picks the other girl up and just
slams her
straight on her head.
Yeah,
it was just done. Like it was
done.
Oh, she's dead. Like I thought she was very seriously injured.
There's some value on the unders, honestly, because I mean even. Some of these girls are just like, they're just like not very good at defense, but you'll get those blanket like, all right, whatever, -300, -200, that's going to go over 2.5. But there's value on the unders a lot of times, but you just gotta try and identify those.
We haven't even mentioned the most accomplished athlete who is on the main card, Former Los Angeles Laker Mark Madsen is taking on
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog, using his dance moves to try to get a victory over.
Isn't that wild?
Pichel. No, in seriousness, Mark Madsen is the most decorated man on the main card because he is a former silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling at the Rio Olympics. He is a bona fide world-class athlete here. What do you make of his chances and in general his superlative 11-0 mixed martial arts record since converting from an amateur to a pro?
Yeah, I think recently he hasn't been doing too hot. He's been winning, but he's been winning against like older competition. I think his last fight was against Clay Guida, who's like an old. I think he's like 40, and he's not very good. He didn't try to take him down once either. So I actually
Clay Guida's got the shaka in his profile pic on Wikipedia.
Guida's the guy. He's old.
This
is a young man's sport.
Cool.
Yeah. I think I actually like Vince here. He's just a much more well-rounded fighter. A lot of time in these in UFC, you'll have someone who's really good at something, and that can get you very far. Like Khabib's really good at fucking wrestling, and he was the best ever because of it. But he wrestled bears and shit. Silver medal.
I mean, he was so good about his body, like his body positioning. Like basically, you were carrying the weight of that guy the entire fight. Like he made you tired, and it's just impossible to fight when you're so.
Everyone that's ever gone against him or like trained with him, and just will say like he feels like he's 200, 250 pounds, like way bigger than he is. He's a 155 pounder, but yeah, I mean Madsen, I just think he's not as well rounded. He'll try to get his wrestling going a lot of time. You know how Andy, you were a decorated wrestler, right? And so you know how hard it was. And did you
do any Greco or freestyle in the summer?
No, I didn't.
That's a whole different fucking bag of bees.
Yeah, and it's all right for
Roman wrestling. You can't touch
all right for MMA, right? Exactly, and that's kind of, that's kind of a disadvantage in MMA. So yeah, no, I think he has got a decent shot, but I think Vince is like the justified favorite because he's just a much more well-rounded fighter.
He's 39, but I also just saw a picture of him, and he looks like he might own an Italian restaurant, but also be a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, he's good.
I'm down with him.
He's good. That's one of my bets. I'm taking Vince Pichel. It's coming down. People love betting on wrestlers, right? Because like that's if you're a dominant wrestler, you can't really get anything going on the other end. It doesn't matter how good of a striker you are if you're on your back. So people are gonna like Vince or Mark Madsen because he's a wrestler. He's an Olympian. People will see that and they're like, all right, cool, I'll bet on him. And he's a dog. So people are especially going to want to bet on him. But yeah, Vince is he's good. He can wrestle himself.
That's
MMA wrestling is different from regular just pure folk style or
you can punch him too. And that's
right.
I mean exactly. That just reminds me of a piece of advice. God, I shouldn't even say how old I was when my dad told me this because like it's bad parenting probably. But I mean I was probably like 11. And I don't know what happened, but we were talking about a fight at school or something. And my dad got to telling stories about fighting after he got out of high school. And he's like, you know what? He's like, the wrestling is going to come in handy if you get in a bar fight. He's like, the biggest part about a bar fight is it's super hard for a guy to hit you when you're sitting on his chest.
Right.
He's like, if you take a guy down and you're on top, he's like, good luck to that guy. He's like, just do that.
Have you been in a lot of bar fights, Andy?
No, I try to keep it clean. But he said, don't make the first punch. He's like, take the guy down, sit on top of him and pummel him. He's like, it's way easier. That's way easier than standing on the wrestle. He's like, we're not boxers. I'm not a boxer. We're not doing this.
Yeah. Andy's got an enforcer's mentality. He's breaking it up. He's sending everyone to their corners.
I could see him being a good dude to have at the bar.
I'm over with the girlfriends. Like, oh, I can't believe these guys are just acting a damn fool again.
That's one of the best things about the going to the UFC fights is you'll get like the regular UFC fights, but you're always guaranteed one fight in the bathroom whenever you go to the bathroom because everyone's hyped up. So you get a little extra for your ticket.
Oh, for sure.
Those are the real prelims.
when you mentioned that your guy Vince was coming down, I looking at the screen, I see it.
No, it's going down.
Are there specific books on this bestfightodds.com screen where if you see a move happen at that book, you're like especially piques your interest?
Maybe Bet Online, which is I guess ref is what they call it, but Bet Online takes a lot of action there. So usually not. If I like a price, I'll just take it. I'll look for whatever the best price is and just snag it.
They seem to move the most aggressily. A lot of these other books are barely ever moving.
Right. Yeah, they definitely do. And they open, so they'll move aggressively. Okay. They'll take those hits.
I love it. Okay, so let's wrap it up. UFC 273. Some of your favorite looks for the people who have hung in and learned a lot, like I have. I really appreciate this.
Okay.
What are we cheering for?
I like the under. Fight does not go the distance in the main event, Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie.
Ooh, under 4.5 is plus 120.
Yeah, we're taking plus monies over here. Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really good play. Volkanovski, I think he just outlasts Korean Zombie, but there's a small chance he gets knocked out by Korean Zombie, who packs a lot of punch. And yeah, that's my favorite play. And yeah, like we were just discussing, I like Pichel, and I think you can probably wait it out. I don't think there's going to be much buyback. I think a lot of people are going to be buying into Madsen and the wrestling. So
shop around for that one.
Right. I think you can wait. It's a big octagon. So there's much more. So the Apex where they fight, like the fight nights, the non-pay-per-views, they have a smaller octagon. So if you're moving around in there, it's much easier to get entangled or wrestled. Wrestlers have inherent advantage in there, but this is the big pay-per-view, big ring. I think he's going to be moving around, and I think he's going to piece up Madsen. So, and like I said with the Jacksonville judges, I think those guys are going to favor more damage boxing wise than wrestling. So if you get wrestled and laid on, I don't think that's going to be as effective to the judges as someone who's just piecing you up on the feet. So I don't think wrestlers are going to have as good of an advantage here, and especially with the big ring and the judging and how it usually goes there. So those are
worth noting the offshore for Pichel that will take 5K has him 137. The offshore that will take 2K has him 122. So just a little kind of do your own shopping around there. All right, Pichel, I'm on under 4.5. I'm on. Any live angles that you're sitting on that you're going to be looking out for in any of the other fights?
So I got a play that I do like is it's not a live angle, but it is something I think is decent value, is the Peter Yan in round 4 or round 5. Round 4 it looks like is 12-1. Round 5 is 14. You can get 18 some places. The way he fights, he likes to kind of let the other fighter lead the dance for a few rounds, download, calculate, make his reads, and then he kind of turns up. He's a very dangerous fighter. Aljo's coming off like neck surgery and shit, so like very bad neck surgery, I guess. I'm not a neck surgery expert, but sounds like it's something that might affect you during a fight. But yeah, I think that's a good look in terms of like some props and stuff. Yeah, other than that, that's what I would look for. I think, like I said, Yan starts slow usually, so you might be able to get a better price on him if Aljo wins the first few rounds. Or the first round, he lets you win.
I like that.
If you watch the last fight, he was like the first 2 rounds, he arguably lost. He definitely lost the first because he just was like downloading and trying to figure it out. But that's in terms of live angles, I'd look at that, and I think that prop is actually decent.
It was like our Dolphins second half fade a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to bet against the Dolphins, but we're going to bet against the Dolphins at halftime. If things are right, like a bunch of times. Do you, and that I guess good one to close with. Do you do a lot of live betting? Do you have do you have Bet Online open when you're watching the fights? Because I feel like anytime I see someone saying, "Hey, I'm live betting this UFC fight," it's because like I strongly disagree with this. Where it's usually, an NFL live market, you got to be pretty confident. Like a team is going to turn it around. A lot of these are like, this guy's winning the fight and he's an underdog. I think the market's just fucked up.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. One thing that affects the live market is the announcers. Like sometimes Joe Rogan's just like going crazy for a dude, and then he'll be the favorite for no reason other than Joe Rogan like thinks he's dope that night. I think it was the Izzy Adesanya versus your boy Stylebender versus Jan Blachowicz. Jan was beating him, but the announcers were like, "Oh, Izzy looks so great tonight. He's doing so well." But if you're actually watching, Jan was definitely winning, and he was like plus 200 the whole entire fight. So I just kept hitting it. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then Jan ended up winning. So that's the live stuff is actually there's some good edges in there if you pay attention, but you got to be locked in. So sometimes you're drinking and you don't really know who's winning, and
that's usually my experience. So don't bet live. Is
you got to be locked in.
Just steer clear of that. Okay.
I do a lot of live betting. Yeah.
Very good. All right, man. Well, that was awesome. You rule.
All right, boys.
Any final tips for the people? Bet some Titans futures. Bet some. Buy
some Mariota.
Buy some claws. It's summer season. Go visit Hawaii. What all else is interesting you in the world of sports?
I'm Mariota's biggest fan, so huge Falcons guy this year. Comeback player of the year. I cashed in on Mike Vrabel coach of the year pretty large, so that's a big portion of my bankroll. And yeah, I mean,
what was the best price you got on that?
I had some like 30s. I'm a homer, so whenever they open, I'm like, all right, Titans are going to win the Super Bowl. Vrabel's going to win. I had Derrick Henry 65-1 MVP. That was a devastating day when he got hurt. So tomorrow my pick for the Masters, I think Scheffler's going to win. Kind of a boring.
There's no Hawaiian golfers, are there?
No, I don't think so. There should be. Maybe
underserved market. There's good courses out there. Kids, if you're watching this in Hawaii,
yeah, you got
everything's expensive in Hawaii. It's like $19 for a box of Wheaties when you get there.
Like, yeah, it is. The milk
that's
is
why
like
it's paradise.
That's why you don't eat Wheaties. You eat banana. You eat banana macadamia pancakes.
Yeah,
bro. You go get a Mocha Loco. I don't understand the Mocha Loco, but I'll eat it.
Yes. Oh, you eat Mocha. Oh yeah.
It makes no sense as a dish, but it's good.
It's bomb.
That's good, man. You get a short rib one. Try one of those next time.
Oh, short ribs in the freezer. I might just make one.
Now you're talking.
I expect you guys to be diehards by the end of the month, but I'll keep checking in on you guys.
Done and done.
I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, excited for this one.
Of course. This is the pregame to the epic sports weekend we're about to have, so I'm probably just going to keep drinking.
I feel like this is the main event, right?
UFC is the main event, in my opinion. I'm getting too hyped for it.
Baseball starts tomorrow, man.
Baseball starts tomorrow. This is a big week for the boys, so let's have a week.
All right.
Cheers,
well, let's keep up the great work. Follow Aaron on Twitter @TopCocky. Again, I cannot recommend his account enough as far as an absolutely rock solid follow. So keep up the great work over there, and don't let the fame go to your head. Stay grounded, stay humble. Yeah, you keep grinding. Keep grinding.
I was in Boston for a bachelor party and got recognized at a bar, so I'm kind of on my way up right now. I'm sure that's something you're used to.
Kind of a big deal. You're kind of a big deal.
Only happens when I'm out with my wife and she just dies laughing.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I have a podcast. My name's Andy. She just makes fucking fun of me. She's mean.
It's easy to get poked fun, by the way.
It is.
All right, boys.
Let's call her a night.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Cheers, boys.
Calcutta will be live. Andy's hosting the Calcutta, by the way.
Damn right.
Good luck.
He'll be the auctioneer. Best of luck to us. I will get Kim if I can in your honor, and we will win the Calcutta. So let's go. All right, Dan, you can hit the music. Great. Killer.
Yeah, we're not good at saying goodbye ever.
No, fire it up.
Dan's has his finger on the music for the last 5 minutes.
I bet the Celtics tonight they're winning by 18. Everything's good. Everything's right. Everything's good.